Here we are already on chapter 7 in Foundations. Can you believe it? We're almost at this midpoint. Um, Consultation, Advocacy, and Evaluation is this chapter. Of course, like always, I would like to make sure you know what we're learning about. So, understanding the characteristics of mental health consultation and the different roles that consultants play, describing the importance of advocacy on multiple levels, and recognizing the need for client outcome evaluation and ways to evaluate client outcomes. Understanding the need for systematic program evaluation and the importance of process evaluation and program evaluation. Those are probably things that you may not have even understood that were in our field, but consultation is a really important part of what we do, and there's different models of consultation. There's different types. So mental health consultation is a problem-solving interpersonal relationship that develops through periodic face-to-face contacts or now online contacts. So there's a history of mental health consultation, and counselors are used as consultants. There's a huge history of consultation, starting with Gerald Kaplan. It draws from his work. He's known as the father of modern practice of mental health consultation, so you'll need to know that, Gerald Kaplan. He was a child and community psychiatrist who developed and refined many models and methods for practicing consultation. We are called on many times to consult with other professionals and organizations. I am most certainly, consultation is a piece of what I do in my own practice, and it comes from a solid foundation of knowledge and expertise. Sometimes we can be full-time consultants, and we can engage in it part-time. We also may consult with others. So we may be the consultant, which is the one providing the consultation, the consultee, a professional working directly with the client who requested help from the consultant. And the third party is a client or client system served directly by the consultee. Different times I've been consulted have really been a multitude of areas. A death, a school has called, a church has called for some consultation and direction about what to do. Other professionals, other businesses, you can consult with businesses, etc. But consultation is this direct relationship that's basically going to help clarify some things for the person who's asking for the consultation. I also have lawyers consult with me and doctors consult with me about cases, whether related to our actual client or not. Sometimes people will pay me to come in as a consultant for a workplace where they're having an issue. So you can see how you can morph into this. In fact, my private practice is coaching, consulting, and counseling. So we do all three of those tiers. So sometimes counselors never get into this. You have to work to get paid. Insurance is not going to pay you for mental health consultation, but companies and people will pay you for your time for sure. So, like a lawyer wants to consult with me, I charge them for my time. We got a new kitten, so I'm just getting off. And the cat is like, they say hello. They can't see you. Hello. Maybe I should take my camera off for a second. Let's see what happens if I do that. I guess it won't let me. Woo! Woo! I'm gonna take the camera off. Okay, it's really cute. And if we were allowed to bring animals, I would bring her tonight to class for y'all. But I'm not. So I'm not really sure what was happening or why I decided to get the kitten at this point in my life. But whoa, whoa, kitten. Yeah.
Okay, I'm trying my hand in an edited video. So I started the video, but then needed to stop the video and went back to edit and add. So fingers crossed this works. If it was a little choppy or you missed something, let me know in an email, please. If you ever have any issues with this, just like the videos that you weren't able to see. And I'm working on that. I'm going to embed them. Hopefully that will make it easier for you so you don't have to copy and paste into your browsers. So we talked about Kaplan kind of being the the father of mental health consultation. I was looking for the right word. And there are actually 4 types of mental health consultation, and you will need to know these. You will need to know what these are and understand them. Just go ahead and memorize them for your midterm and just make sure you understand what they are. There's 4 types, like I said, and it says right there 4 types. So client-centered consultation is the most commonly used form. The consultee presents a case about a particular client who's experiencing a problem for which the consultee needs treatment recommendations. We do this a lot, especially after we are fully licensed. So we're not under supervision anymore. And so we need to consult with someone, and usually with someone who has at least the same amount of experience as us or more, as what I like to do. Sometimes not. Sometimes I usually get several, couple different, because you'll often get different answers. And when you're noting that you consulted, which I just consulted with someone, and you can charge for it. I have enough colleagues for which I think we don't charge each other. We just say, hey, like I may say hey to Susan Marshall or my friend Chris Ross or um, Kim Neese or others. I may say, hey, do you have 5 or 10 minutes to discuss a case with me? And when they do, I write and met Dr. Boyd and a whole host of others. But I write down, can I put in my notes that I consulted with you? And I'll write down the people I consulted with about the decision that I'm going to make or what I'm going to do with the person. And I will, of course, in informed consent, it does say that I might consult about a case. Now, I don't give any identifying information about the client, very general, just the facts that I need the assistance with. So there we go. That's that one. And then consultee-centered case consultation, that's a mouthful, is to improve the consultee's ability to work effectively with a particular case as well as with similar cases. So these 2 types of consultation are very similar. Um, so it's a little bit confusing, I think. So the primary goal for the client-centered is to develop a plan to help a specific client, but consultee-centered case consultation is more about maybe you. They're very similar, and I find that to be confusing myself, as I'm sure you do too. So make sure you read that in your text and look at the 2 case examples. So in the first one, it's very client centered. You're calling, just like I said, specific question about someone, or you're calling someone else to get an expert opinion. So I may be, this example in the book is about cyberbullying. Um, Consulting with someone on if they have an area of expertise. Someone might call me because of trauma or complex trauma or disassociation. They may call me to consult, or that I'm a professor and teach a lot of ethical codes, etc. So they know that I'm up to date on a lot of that, so they can call me because of that. And consultee-centered case consultation is more about the possible shortcomings of yourself, of the lack of support, lack of the ability to determine if you should be seeing the person, um, lack of knowledge, lack of skill, lack of confidence. The main focus of consultee-centered case consultation is to improve the consultee's professional functioning in relation to specific cases. So it's more focused on you. This one case example, her father had died, and maybe she had less objectivity was more personal. And then we have program-centered and consultee-centered administrative consultation. So those are the next 2. So the program-centered administrative consultation is to help an individual or group of consultees develop a new program or improve an existing one. We hired a KCRAP consultant, and he was an expert on KCRAP, and he looked at our self-report that our report that we had written and all of our measures. And he assisted us in making programmatic changes to improve the clinical mental health program. And it was brutal. I may have told you about Bryce Hagedorn and Dr. Hagedorn from UCF, but he sure was a thorough. And we learned a lot, and we have more to learn. But man, we changed everything with the program. We had a good program, but we had things we needed to change to get us where we needed to be. So luckily for you guys, you're coming in with all these beautiful changes that we've made, and we're right in line with everything KCREP wants from us and already approved for site visits. So Bryce was great. It wasn't necessarily fun. Consultee-centered administrative consultations. That'll be an easy one to remember. And then consultee-centered administrative is to help solve problems in an organizational policy, enhancing competency of staff, and perhaps increase overall functioning of your staff. So we're not changing program and policy with this, we're helping enhance our staff. So we could be hired to go into an agency and provide assistance and training to staff. One thing that I may do for a salon here in town, I was just speaking with them about maybe going in and doing some meditation with them because everyone is just so stressed and anxious, and helping them to keep their nervous systems balanced while they're putting themselves at risk. And some of the stuff we've done in class, but actually do like an hour training on it and then actually guide them through some meditations and give them some resources to help them to stay balanced in their day. So that would be me going in and helping the staff increase their functioning, being able to balance their stress and keep themselves healthy. There's a wonderful example in your text about the police chief is aware of racial tension among the police officers. Police officers choose to segregate themselves during break time. 2 officers have asked to be reassigned to new partners with whom they have more in common. Racial slurs are not uncommon, and efforts at team building have been unsuccessful. The police chief realizes that the problem needs to be addressed as soon as possible. He calls you to see if you would be willing to serve as an outside consultant, that is, someone who is not already employed by the organization. Your job is to meet with groups and individuals to help them develop diversity skills. This is huge right now. And if you're really into this, I haven't had a lot of time to market my consulting in the practice. I've done some work with it, and we were just kind of up and running with pushing it forward. But this is one of the things that we have on our radar is going out and doing um, racial sensitivity training and things like that, so we can help organizations understand and look at their own biases, etc. Um, so if you're interested in this, this is right now in our world, there's a lot we can do to make money and do fun stuff like this. I think it's very rewarding for us to be able to go into a whole organization and actually help them learn a new skill or balance their nervous system or be more sensitive to social justice issues, like understand what it means. A lot of people are really just very uneducated. They were raised in a certain way and they don't understand any of the science about it or understand why people are the way they are. So anyway, I'm off on a tangent there, aren't I? All right, let's keep going. See, who knew consultation could be so fun? You probably looked at this chapter and thought, boring, but no, it's kind of fun, right? So key characteristics of successful consultants, it's a different skill set. So it's different than counseling, right? It's totally different. But we have some of the same Rogerian influence in our consulting skills. Positive, caring approach. We're not judging. We're very sensitive. Clearly, you have to be that way if you're going in to work with people. Bryce was very caring with us, even though like he had to deliver some blows at times, where we would get on the call with him on the Zoom call and we would think we're doing great, and he very gently let us down that we needed to change some things. Very able to listen, engage, and work collaboratively, have a strong work ethic, but not be authoritarian. So you're able to go in and do what you said you're going to do and give feedback when you're supposed to give feedback. Be able to assess variables and conduct well-planned evaluations of your work. You want to make sure that what you're doing or what's happening is actually effective. that you have the knowledge for what you're doing, and training, and you understand how to do it, and you understand the topic for which you're talking about, or that you're giving. If you're the consultant, you have to, um, if you don't know and you are not going to be a viable choice for someone for whatever it is, you need to pass that on because you may not be willing or able to share valid information and understand systems. Advocacy goes right along with consulting, right? Our advocacy counseling expands the traditional role of individual counseling to a broader focus that addresses injustice, oppression, and environmental conditions need to improve for the benefit of an individual or a group. Boy, it's really important that we understand that. And what a cool part of our job right now that we get to do that. And people forget that that's part of what we do. It's in our ethical code. And sometimes people forget all the different things that we do as counselors, which is not just counseling, so much more. So, how do we serve as advocates? It's probably confusing to you as you come in to think, well, how do I do that? Well, you might serve as an advocate for your client. Boy, I do. I love to call the school up or call whoever or bring the person in, bring the family member in. Let's talk. Most recently had a mother of a college student throw her antidepressant medicine out. And I very calmly said, please ask her to join us next time we're on Zoom because she's back home and she's out of town. And because I would like to educate her on the importance of you being on this medicine. Because I'm going to advocate for my client. I mean, she's depressed and isolating, and the only thing that's changed is the medicine's gone. And right now, a lot of people need medicine because of the climate we're in. So, anyway, this can be anything like that or bigger, but for vulnerable populations, for people who've experienced discrimination, um, we can be the voice for clients, but also for organizations. We can also stand up and advocate in multiple ways for people and systems. And there are certain terms that we're going to go over that are associated with advocacy, and we'll talk about those in a second. So, advocacy, I just said this, helps remove environmental barriers that hamper clients' well being, and it serves two purposes. And this is important, you need to know this: to increase clients' sense of personal power or to foster environmental changes that reflect greater responsiveness to clients' personal needs. Focuses on addressing systems of oppression that negatively affect clients and people at large. These are the terms that you need to know for advocacy. Outreach, initiating behaviors toward people in need for the purpose of making a helpful difference. Reaching out to vulnerable populations in their communities and helping them to find new ways to cope with stressors. Empowerment, when we process through which clients gain the resources and skills need to have more control over their environments and their lives. We empower people. And social justice and social action are really important. Involves promoting access and equity to ensure full participation in the life of a society. And social action is like behaviors to make that happen, or actionable behaviors. And one of the ways we assist clients with advocacy and counseling is to empower them. We really want our clients to be able to advocate for themselves and advocate and stand up. So it's important for us to be involved in these things like social justice and taking action when we do and can do that. And it's just aligned with who we are. We want everyone to be equitable. But how do we get people to that point? And one of the ways we do that is to empower people. There is a whole theory, feminist theory, that I love in our theories class, and we're going to talk about it and learn about it. And at the end, it's toward the end. It's a newer theory, obviously. It's very created by women. So it is also for men. So I don't want people get the wrong idea sometimes that you can't be a feminist counselor. Men can very much be a feminist counselor, but there's a lot of this in that theory here, and so starting to get an idea of how these things can work together sometimes when these classes overlap so much and understanding why that is. So empowerment, we have 5C model of empowerment for counseling, which is collaborating, working together with the clients to define the problem and plan for change. Context, acknowledging roles of factors such as poverty and racism. Making sure to acknowledge that in the therapy room. Critical consciousness, raising clients' awareness of social, economic, and other power dynamics. Competence, focusing on client strengths, resources, and skills. And community, connecting with the community to facilitate empowerment. So those are the 5 C's. In ways, how do we do this? So how do we serve as advocates? We We empower the client, we advocate, we help them gain services, we collaborate with the community to bring about healthy change, we intervene at systemic level to facilitate change, we disseminate information to the public about disempowerment or disenfranchisement, and we take action when we need to for populations. What do effective advocates do? We vigorously represent clients in multiple methods to meet client needs. We target policies or practices for change. We map the decision systems responsible for targeted policies and practices. We cast larger problems into solvable pieces and propose concrete solutions to problems. And there are more things we can do as effective advocates. And we use all these strategies, and you guys can read through, but counter negative stereotypes and misbeliefs. Don't be confrontational. Monitor change in practice. Cultural awareness as relate to colleagues, clients, and decision makers. So there's also the important part of advocating for our profession. I send things out all the time to show you how our state agency and our national professional organizations advocate for our profession. I told you about how we couldn't diagnose, we couldn't 1013. There are just so many things that we have been able to do recently that's been amazing. It wasn't until 2003 that there was an actual set of advocacy competencies. Um, they were developed by a task force, and I've got those in attached in one of the modules. I will put them in this one too. You can read them. I think that's on, or I want to review these in class. So take a look at those. I think you may have already looked at them, but look at these competencies. I think you looked at multicultural. You haven't looked at advocacy. So I want you to look at these. And the competency domains are defined by the extent of client involvement and the level of intervention. So you kind of want to look at that systemically and see how it works. So the extent of client involvement falls in a continuum ranging from acting on behalf of the client to acting with the client. The level of intervention falls on the continuum, which includes the micro level, which is client focused, the meso level, which is community and systems, and the macro level, which is focused on systemic change in the public arena. You need to know all 3 of those terms. Because the micro, macro level, etc. Examples of ways that counselors might serve as advocates across the domains include client empowerment, like we talked about, advocacy, community collaboration, systems advocacy, public information, social and political advocacy. Okay. Stay up to date on everything with your professional organization. Advocate for us, for counselors, to get Medicare, take Medicare. That's what we're working on right now. That's like our last hurdle. So part of advocating for the profession and getting us up to date and getting us parity with social workers and other professional disciplines, we needed to get our field measurable. And so part of this is for us to practice evidence-based treatment. We need to be looking at what we're doing and seeing if it's effective. one of the reasons I like the assessments that I gave you guys is, well, A, they're free, B, they're easy, and C, they are something you can do quickly and give to a client. So the depression inventory, anxiety inventory, I'm sure there are more comprehensive assessments that you could use, but that's a great measure to give someone pre and post. So you give that when they come in, maybe at the middle as well, and you can show them your symptoms have come down. I actually gave it last week. Their symptoms came back up, and I wanted to see. I was, trusting myself in my notes, but I actually wanted to see. So I was like, can we take this again just to see where you are? And their symptoms were higher than a month ago. They had a med change with some sleepy medicine and some hormones, and I do think that that is what happened. So that is so important. I mean, we don't we don't just sit and counsel. I mean, we have to look at them holistically like that, biopsychosocial, look at the whole system. And so I'm able to say, hey, everything was going better. We were making progress, and something changed a couple weeks ago, and it was the med change. And so I had her go to her doctor. I got a release, and they got back with me. They reduced her meds for sleeping med because the side effects are grogginess, sleepiness, feeling out of it. Those are also symptoms of depression. They can make you depressed if you feel that way. So, important to have this your own data to say, hey, this is working, this is not working, and then at the end to be able to say, oh, you have mild or no depression now, and you were severe. Really powerful. And also, we have to make sure we're doing evidence-based treatment. EMDR is evidence-based, cognitive behavioral, solution focused. We have to be able to say what we're doing works, and we had to have research to back that up. Evidence-based practice is a broader term, and it refers to clinical practice informed by evidence about interventions, clinical expertise, client needs, values, and preferences, and their integration and decision making about individual care. So, making sure that what you're doing, the different modalities that you practice are evidence-based, but also that you are making sure that they fit the client and you're taking in all the considerations, the moderators, or the characteristics that influence the intervention outcome. And it can be socioeconomic status, ethnicity, gender, comorbidity of other disorders and age. And treatment integrity is so important. The extent to which interventions are delivered by a trained interventionist. So, other client outcome measures. Most measures address the following areas: symptoms, well being, and functioning. We talked about those. And here are some more other measures other than the one that I've already introduced you to, which is Beck depression. There's the client evaluation of counseling inventory, outcome questionnaire, and clinical outcomes and routine evaluation, which is the COROM. And we can also look at those maybe next week when we meet. Maybe we'll look at some of these as well. So also one of the things that we do, so I also do like a satisfaction questionnaire. So it's an actual, just a brief assessment that clients can do online, or they can put it in a box, like a ballot box, secret box. There's no identified information on it so that they can be honest about how they felt about their services that were provided to them at our organization. And so that's a really good measure too, because sometimes, they may not tell you how they really felt about their experience. So you want to make sure too that you might get an assessment that's completely anonymous. They could tell you if they didn't like what happened. And program evaluation, it's a little bit different, but program evaluation is related to client outcome, but is broader, and it's looking at the whole program. It's a systematic collection of information about activities, qualities, results of clinical mental health counseling programs so that judgments can be made about overall program effectiveness. So that's what we did last year. We completely and continue to do. That's why you have a portfolio. It seems a little annoying, but it's linked to learning outcomes. That's why I added that wellness plan in at the last minute. And everybody so far I've taken a look at it, they're looking good, looking great. But things that we can assess growth and different key performance indicators. So in theories, some of your key performance indicators demonstrate that you've met um, that standard for knowledge, so you understand theories. And we can link it back to that. And then you can write about your growth in theories at the end of the program and how, now after, let's say you took theories and advanced techniques and you took an internship, at the end of your program, you can write a nice reflection about the progression of your theoretical orientation and how now you feel really aligned with, say, feminist theory, and how do you practice it and how have you grown? And then we can go back and say to K-Rep and to Sachs, hey, we have met these standards and this is how. So there's certain steps in doing that. You have to conduct needs assessment, identify program goals and objectives, use data, design and implement a program, revise and improve program, and assess effectiveness, which is what we are doing already. So the other cohort above you, they're already doing portfolio. So their portfolio is due in 10 days, 9 days, their first program. So next year we're going to make that a little sooner, but they'll turn in mid-year portfolio. So you guys will do that next fall or August. We may move it back to August. And you will submit it in OneDrive and we'll take a look at it and we have a rubric to score you to say, how you did on those assignments and midway through the program and then at the end. So that's a good way to maybe can think about program eval. But you can also do program eval in organizations, right? You can be a part of program evaluation for certain agencies. Make sure you read the case of Jenny on 188. That will really help you to understand another type of program eval other than a counseling education. And then there's process evaluation. These are formative evaluations. A process evaluation is also called a formative evaluation, and it provides information about how well a program is being implemented. During types of process evaluations, the evaluated is determined whether the programs are operating in accordance with plans, objectives, and expectations. A process evaluation involves ongoing monitoring of what services are being provided by whom, for whom, to whom, how many, when, and at what cost. Examples of questions that might be asked during process evaluation are listed on page 190, and that might help you to understand. So if you were looking at how effective maybe a program or agency was, how many clients are they seeing? What are the outcomes of those clients that they're seeing? They're really important to have effective monitoring for all of that. And then there are also summative evaluations. And those are different than formative, and you need to know those terms for your career, and you need to understand the difference in summative and formative. So the way to keep this kind of straight for the different for formative versus summative is summative is what informs the whole program. Formative is just a small objective. So if you're looking at a group and if it's being attended, then you may do several different types of formative evaluations, and then you would have a more overall focus would be a summative. So sum could be how you remember that, right? The sum, like all together to make a whole. I'm walking to charge my computer, and if it sounds weird, that's what's happening. I am recording. Yes. I did not want my computer to die. Heaven help me. 30 minutes of lecture gone, which is more than 30 because I'm always reviewing and like reading and stuff too. Okay, so it's more like an hour and a half or more. Let's see. That was it's the sum of the whole program, right? So just remember those two and just do a little chart to remember them. There are very many challenges with program eval, logistics, gathering, and how to keep your numbers, right? Data management, resistance to evals. So things to think about in your career. You might be asked to do this in your place of employment. You may be asked to help with something like this when you're in your practicum and internship.
but very important and very effective. Okay. Ooh, sorry, we're done with this one. I'll put the ACA advocacy codes, I'm sorry, the ACA advocacy competencies in with this chapter 7, so you can review that before class.